Hello, everyone. This is Charles Walter Buntjer coming to you from San Francisco. It's 2026 and I'm 86 years old. I think you're going to find this video very interesting. It's about how I, at 6 years old, living on a farm in northern Illinois, ended up being a pen pal with a boy 7 years old living in the Netherlands. His home was about 50 kilometers south of Amsterdam. Stay tuned for how this all happened. I was born in 1940, and in 1946 I started going to the one-room school about a mile from where we lived. The teacher was Miss Irma Myers, and there were about 14 children in the 8 grades. The first grade was the largest. I was in first grade with Carol Newberger and Marilyn Ball. We didn't know what was going to happen to us as suddenly a reporter and a photographer came to the school. What's going on, we wondered. Well, it was Life magazine. They were going to do an article on a one-room school in the United States, and then that book or magazine would be sent all over the world for people to really know what they were fighting for, democracy and the future children of the world. Anyway, I didn't realize it was my 15 minutes of fame, but the management of Life talked to my parents and asked if I could be on the cover. And they agreed, and I ended up on the cover, and the 4-page spread had about 4 pictures on each page, and I was in most of those. So I was famous, but didn't know it because I was only 6 years old. Now what happened was really interesting. I got maybe 1,000 or more letters, postcards, presents from all over the world, from England, from the Netherlands, from Hawaii, even from what used to be called Java. So one day, there was a knock at the door, and there was the mailman. Now, the mailman always dropped our mail in the mailbox about, I don't know, a quarter of a mile or so away. There were 3 or 4 mailboxes on the corner for the neighbors. So the mailman would just stop there and put the mails in and drive off, and we always had to go down to get our mail. He came to the house because he had a package, and he wondered what was in it, because everybody in Pecatonica at the mailroom wanted to know what I was getting, because it was from the Netherlands or Holland. So we opened it up, and there were a pair of yellow wooden shoes and a letter from Franz Slope-Tote Everlow and his family. Of course, I was excited at 6 years old. I put those shoes on, but they were way too big, and I clumped around the kitchen, and we had a good laugh about it, and then we put the shoes away so I wouldn't wreck them. So then we decided we had to respond and write a letter back to them, because they had said in the letter that their house had been bombed during World War II. Now this is less than a year after the war ended. My parents were so nice, they bought shirts for Franz, and they bought a bunch of books. They bought an encyclopedia, they bought a book on horses, and we put it all together in a care package and sent it off to the Netherlands. They were nice and sent us a picture back of them in the backyard with Franz having one of the shirts on, and his uncle was reading the book about horses because he had been in the military, and he was a captain of the cavalry. So anyway, that's when my pen pal started with Franz. Now time went by, and it was 1953, and I wrote a 2-page letter to Franz, and I was going to mail it to him, and then I found out my mother had cancer and was going to die in a few months. I was devastated and traumatized for several years, and the letter never got mailed. It ended up in the bottom of a box. It was keepsakes, I guess, and photographs and all that sort of stuff. And my sister took the box with her to Rockford. Then she took it to Chicago, where they lived. And around 2000, she took it to Tucson, Arizona, and decided to go through all the boxes she had acquired and throw out things that she didn't need. And there she found my letter at the bottom of the box. How could this be? It was almost 50 years later. So she put it into an envelope and mailed it off to me in San Francisco. Was I surprised? Now here's the letter. I scanned it, and it's hard to see, but it's very faded because of the years that it had been in the bottom of the box. But I'd like to read it to you. Now it may be a little hard for me to read some of it because the ink wasn't very clear at times, but I'll try to do my best, so bear with me. It's written as the following: Polo, Illinois, May 15th, 1953. Dear Franz and family, we have not heard from you for a long time. We are all well. We're having a late spring. They are planting the corn. Now it has been cold and dry. I hope your country is getting cleaned up from the floods. We've only had bad tornadoes south of here. On the 10th of May, they warned us we would have tornadoes here, but it was only a windstorm. We were very thankful. I'm sending you colored photos of my sister's wedding. They are very expensive and have had to be made in New York City. We have no mail from you yet, but we are going to try to send a package for you, but it's hard to get things to put in it, things you do not have. The cheese you sent was very good and has such a good taste. Do you have electricity, lights in your home? Money seems to be harder to make since the first of the year. Cattle and grain prices are very low, but taxes are higher. What does Uncle Anthony do? Is he still with you? I do not know anything more to write now. Oh, we had to have 2 more weeks of school and have a picnic at the Pines Park. Maybe I can take some photos and send them to you. Hope you will write soon, Charles. I have included some pictures that were taken in the church. I'll try to write on the back of them for you. Can you imagine? It's very strange, though. I wondered why I asked them if they had electricity. I mean, that's one thing. I would be sure that they had electricity in their homes, especially being in big cities. And it was also interesting how I talked about the price of grain and the price of taxes, the cost of taxes, and so on. At 13 years old, in 8th grade, in a one-room school, living on a farm in northern Illinois. All very interesting. Now I want to go on and talk about, after I got that letter from Yvonne, my sister, I thought I would go and send a letter to the address. Now this is 50 years later, and I sent the letter off, and I asked if Franz was still living in the same place, and I ended up getting a response back. It was interesting. A woman responded back to me. She said her name was Valerie Ritter and had 2 children. She was a housewife. And she said that she did a search on the Netherlands web pages and found Pauline Everlow. Valerie was kind enough to send me the information. I emailed Pauline, and she responded saying Franz was her father. Franz then contacted me, and we are corresponding again after 50 years via email. Then I'm hoping that I'm going to meet Franz, because it's 2000 when I sent him the email, but I was going to be in the Netherlands in 2004 with my friend Gail. Will I get to meet him personally after all those years? Time will tell. Now it's 2004, and my friend Gail told me that she had gotten us a trip from her travel agency where she worked to take a 2-week cruise around the Netherlands. I met her through my friend Vivian, who lived in Beverly Hills. I met her in 1999 in April at the tip of South America, and we went to Vienna for the Millennium New Year, and the next year we went to the real Millennium New Year in Morocco. Gail not only got us a trip to the Netherlands on a cruise, but she also got us a trip to Zambia and Victoria Falls for 5 days, and then 2 weeks to tour all around South Africa. Talk about a wonderful experience. So off we went to the Netherlands, and we boarded this ship, and it was just fantastic. As you can see by the pictures, we had a wonderful time. The first day we were sitting at the table at the main dining room having cocktails and having lunch before we sailed off. And as you can see, I was even invited to sit at the captain's farewell dinner table with Gail. We did that, and then we got to Amsterdam and were able to do the Kirchen Gardens, which was a 3-month time that they had exhibiting the tulips, 30 or 40 acres, I think. It was just unbelievable. Now, I had written Franz that we were going to be stopping close to where they lived, and hopefully I would be able to meet him after all these years. We docked, and they put the gangway up to the boat, and I'm in the back where the cocktail lounge was with Gail, and everybody and I were all chatting away, having a good time. Suddenly, the captain made an announcement on the intercom: "Would Charles Buntjer please come to my cabin immediately?" Well, everybody wondered what was going on. So did I. I go up to the cabin, and there's the captain, and who's there but Franz and his wife Yvonne. Well, of course, we hugged and talked away, and I said, "How did you get on the ship? It doesn't make any sense." The captain said he was standing there in the front of the ship checking out the electronics and all that sort of things, and he looked out and saw this couple walking up and down the path by the ship. So he goes outside on the deck and he yells at them, "Hey, you two, are you waiting to see Charles Buntjer?" He said, "Yes." So he said, "Come on board." So they would come on board. They came on board, and they're with him in his cabin. And I come in, and I couldn't help but laugh. He said, they asked him how he knew that they were going to meet him, or me. And the captain said, "Oh, everybody knows everything about Chuck. He tells everybody everything." And he was all excited about meeting you too. So when I saw you walking around there, I figured it had to be you. So then Franz and his wife took me out for a really wonderful lunch, and then we went over to his house and got to go through some of the photographs and things and talk about life in general. And then he and I sat in the backyard looking at photographs in their photo albums and stuff. And then they took me back to the ship, and off we sailed again, Gail and I, back to Amsterdam and then back home again. Now, it's been 80 years, and we're still emailing each other, and once in a while we do send an actual letter to each other. So I'm wondering, even though we've had that 50-year pause in between, we're still writing after 80 years. Is this a record? I don't know. Be interesting to find out. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please subscribe and check the like, and maybe even make a comment as to whether or not you liked it, or if I could do something to make the videos even more interesting. This is it from San Francisco, your friend Charles Walter Buntjer.